86%. Have your kids come home from school recently complaining of having a different substitute teacher every day? Or maybe there's no teacher at all, and your kids are put on a computer for personalized learning with an adult monitoring them, one eye on the class, the other on her phone. But without consistent adults in front of students, education can't happen. Different adults mean different rules, different expectations, and inconsistent content. Therefore, there's no real structure and safety is compromised. The Russian roulette of changing expectations not only causes academic harm, but it could lead to anxiety. According to some reports, as many as 86% of school districts are reporting a teacher shortage, and that's not okay for this simple fact alone. Kids deserve some form of consistency just to make learning possible. Each of the purple dots you see on the screen represents a school district with a teacher shortage. Maybe one of them's yours. The green dots represent the districts that are fully staffed. Of course, every shortage is unique, and the teacher shortage is very complex. In this episode, we're going to go after one question. How were we complicit in the current teacher shortage and the lapse of historical knowledge we see across the nation? In this episode, we may explore how the two are linked. How's that for a conspiracy? As noted, in this episode, we're going to look at one small element that could be contributing to the teacher shortage, and that's teacher preparation. We're going to dive into the praxis test. In 46 states across the country, aspiring teachers must pass the praxis to receive their license. It measures content knowledge and knowledge of pedagogy. Each of the 46 dots represents a state that requires passing the praxis. But according to an article in Education Weekly titled, "You Are More Likely to Pass the Bar Than the Elementary Praxis Test," written by Madeline Will in 2019, fewer than 50% of aspiring teachers pass on their first try. And of those aspiring teachers who don't pass, well, some of them give up on teaching altogether. The yellow dots represent the percentage of aspiring teachers who don't pass the test on the first try. And according to the National Council for Teacher Quality, aspiring teachers who don't pass often struggle with social studies and history, a test that covers basic North American geography, basic knowledge on peoples and cultures prior to European colonization. It also measures knowledge on the origins of the American Revolution, the causes of 19th century sectionalism, the origins and development of the Cold War. Well, this all seems basic. But why such a struggle? I blame it on policy. The authors of policy are the authors of focus, reality, and priorities. In 2002, George W. Bush signed the No Child Left Behind Act into legislation, putting more focus on high standards, high accountability, and high-stakes testing in reading and math. Then, Barack Obama strengthened it by signing Every Child Must Succeed Act into law. However, neither piece of legislation emphasizes the importance of social studies. Just look here. No mention of social studies or history anywhere. Was this on purpose? I don't know. But if it was, that would be the fodder necessary for a conspiracy theory, right? And if it wasn't on purpose, it's just intellectual and cultural negligence. Seeing that states aren't accountable for social studies under federal law, I went through the education websites of all 50 states and found that only 12 mention anything about social studies and have accountability systems or assessments for students in grades kinder through 8th grade. The 12 dots that you see right here represent the number of states who test for history and social studies in the earlier grades. These dots are different colors because each of the states leans differently politically, almost 50-50 in terms of Democrat or Republican in the last presidential election. Now, if an assessment system is created to inspect what you respect, then clearly social studies is not respected. Again, the authors of policy are the authors of focus, priorities, and reality. But now, let's imagine a fourth grade student. She dreams of being a teacher. However, she attends a Title I school that's focused only on reading and math. Social studies happens, but during the last couple of weeks of school, after state testing, so it's not much. Then in college, as an aspiring teacher, she does okay with her education classes, but she fails the praxis because of the social studies portion. Not because she's not smart or a bad test taker, but because she just never learned the material when she should have. And now she won't teach. Now she has to call her mother and tell her, "Hey Mom, I'm giving up on that dream we always talked about." Were we complicit? Were we complicit in this child not getting her teaching degree, not passing the praxis? Kind of looks that way. From a cultural perspective, large numbers of the population may not be learning history and social studies. As such, we lack a common story to anchor us in reality. History tells us of the glories, tragedies, and mistakes made by a people. It unites and binds us. It helps with critical thinking. Without the stories and facts that history provides, people may be easier to manipulate. Ultimately, this could lead to divisiveness and anxiety because you just don't know what's real. This quote from Yoko Ogawa's Memory Police really resonates. "The real me is disappearing as we speak, slowly but surely sucked into thin air." For us, maybe it's more like our history is disappearing as we speak, slowly but surely sucked into thin air. The authors of policy are the authors of focus, priority, and reality. We inspect what we respect, and obviously history is not respected. Let's summarize. How complicit were we to the teacher shortage? Very. Not the whole shortage, but at least some of it. In reality, there are solutions for the aspiring teacher. She can go to a tutoring center and cram for the test, but it's not the same as learning about history over time. The gap created by the system, it can be filled by the growing market of tutors, consultants, and other gap fillers. But it's not the same. We should get it right the first time. Culturally, it feels like there's been an unintentional erasing of history, or at least a prioritization of other subjects to such a degree that it marginalized history and social studies into oblivion. But when a culture doesn't have a common thread or a common story, is it even a culture? And when students don't know history, how do we even think about its context? It seems mindless and dangerous. Here's a couple of action steps. Check out your state's website and see if they hold schools accountable for history, and ask your kids basic questions. Maybe even starting with, how many branches of government are there? And think about this. Maybe your tax dollars are creating a gap in history and you haven't even considered it because you trust the experts. How's that for a conspiracy theory?